On this episode, conquering fear. Hey everybody, this is the quarter show, and we're talking about conquering fear. Obviously a thing that we're all familiar with as entrepreneurs and people in sales. This plagues us, as you know. Not everybody, some people rise above it. I think, it's like a muscle. It's like training a muscle. Like anything, you do something over and over again. A lot of people talk about, how public speaking is like the number one fear, and the second fear underneath public speaking is like death. Right, so Seinfeld jokes about that whole thing. He's like, that means that the person in the audience would rather be in the casket than given the eulogy, So I always get a kick out of that. But it's like, fear is this incredibly unhelpful thing, certainly as it relates to being an entrepreneur and sales, which I kind of put those two together. But it plagues deals, it plagues actions, it plagues different things, and it holds you back. You can't make any forward momentum because you're afraid. And so, one thing I just encourage you to do is just keep doing things that sort of build your fear muscle, build your resistance to fear. And I think that when you look at it, you'll be amazed at how many different points in your day are affected to some degree about fear. And I think it holds up a lot of sales. It holds up a lot of deals. It holds back a lot of sales players that could be fantastic. And I know early days Richter for myself, what I would do was to just simply act anyway. So I would have fear about something, whether it's public speaking or making a phone call to a CEO of a big label or a big company or whatever. And there's just an element of like I would just act so quickly that my fear couldn't catch up. I would just kind of like, there might be fear there, but I would do it anyway, and I would just go quickly, and I would use speed. And I think that's incredibly powerful thing, because the quicker you can jam yourself in the middle of a problem, of a cycle, and just go, then you're stuck. Then you're in the middle of the call, the phone's ringing or whatever, or the person picks up and you're in the smack in the middle of it, and maybe you freak out a little bit. But the more you do that, look, maybe you leave a voicemail that's kind of stumbling around and bumbling a little bit. Fine. It's okay to get scrapes and bruises and different things like that. The worst case scenario is that somebody tells you no, somebody tells you go away, I don't have an interest, blah, blah, blah. Somebody rejects you. Heaven forbid, It's like, but after a while, you start putting in your 10,000 hours. Malcolm Gladwell talks about 10,000 hours. I'm listening to another book, by the way, called Mastery, which you should check out by Robert Cornish. Interesting book. He also talks about 10,000 hours. You got to put in your 10,000 hours, and that's how you're going to conquer things like fear. If you speak every single day, you do public speaking every single day for 3-4 events, you're not going to be afraid to go public speak. You're going to feel comfortable up on the stage. If you make 30, 40, 50 phone calls that normally would scare you, you're not going to be scared anymore. If you act counter to your fear all the time, you're no longer going to be afraid, right? You're going to, you look at fear, and it's kind of like the consistent bad advice machine, right? Consistent counterintuitive or bad advice, right? It's constantly feeding you crummy advice. And you have to look at it that way and go, okay, my fear is telling me to do blah. Take that piece of information, dump it, and do something else. Do the opposite.
Maybe the opposite.
My fear is telling me, don't call this person.
Don't make that call.
Good. Bad advice, categorize it as such, go make that call. Right? Mm-hmm. My fear is telling me, don't send this email, don't go to this person, don't go to the CEO, don't do that. It's constantly feeding you bad advice, and you have to recognize it as such and do it anyway. And after a while, not only do you conquer it, but things become fun. You start to enjoy what you're doing, and that fear just sort of, as you keep doing the opposite, it just dissipates, right? It just starts going down to after a while, it's like you become a master. You start mastering your craft and mastering that thing. You're just doing it, and that fear is gone. And I work with a lot of sales reps. I've done a lot of selling myself, but I work with a lot of sales reps and training people. It's interesting, and it creates a funny phenomenon in salespeople. They start doing funny things. They kind of, like, you ask them about their deals. What about this deal? What about that deal? And then they come up with some reason, and why they haven't done that, and why they haven't done this, and why it's not done yet, and why this and why that. And it's like, you start looking at it, and it really just boils down to, they were afraid to call. They were afraid to do this. They were afraid to ask. They got off the phone and didn't ask that question because it was awkward, right? They were fearful. It was awkward or whatever. Like, hey, did you ask them to sign the proposal? No, I didn't do that. Why didn't you do that? Well, I'm sure they will sign it or whatever. Like, and they just comb over it. Why? Because they're scared. Because they're fear. And I think a lot of people don't want to say, hey, I'm scared or I have fear. Nobody really wants to say that. But that is what it is, right? If you don't make that phone call, it's fear.
Yeah, and fear, it feels like whatever it really is, whatever that's all about, actually, to me, it's always felt like kind of a sort of a chaos or something, sort of like something, I'm not sure what to do, and I'm not sure where to move, and sometimes I don't move, or I make the wrong move, or different things like that. But I noticed that when I finally, after working at it for a while, because I was brand new to sales when I started with Richter, when I finally, for me, the main factor is not that I didn't know what to say or didn't know what to do, but I when I spotted that almost always I was worried about what was going to happen, that I was going to get a no, that I was going to that it wasn't going to go, that the person wasn't going to sign, they were going to give me some reason that I couldn't handle, that I was just not going to get the deal done. I was, that's what was happening. And when I spotted that, I sort of, the fear, a lot of it has left me, like a lot of it. There's still certain areas where you got to keep working out and you got to go to the gym and you got to you got to keep bench pressing, but a lot of it was just all wrapped up in I didn't want to go and make that phone call because I knew I'd get them on the phone, and I was convinced that they were going to say, well, we decided 5 years from next Tuesday is when we're going to start our first video, and I was going to go, I knew it was coming, so I didn't want it, so it would prevent me from action. But the interesting thing is, sometimes they sign off, and sometimes there's something you can handle, and sometimes they were going to say no anyway.
Yeah.
And all you needed to do was go and find out.
You got to be willing to experience that end outcome. You got to be willing to experience that end outcome. It's like you'd be better off to get the experience and get the knowledge or whatever. Even if they say no, it's okay. But if you stay in action and you avoid listening to your fear, you're going to be a heck of a lot better off.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to be a heck of a lot better off. Just keep taking action regardless. Keep doing different things, and after a while, that fear just sort of dissipates. But if you buckle to your fear, again, it's almost always bad advice. If you just look at it right now, think about it. Think about this for a second. List 3 times in the last year, right, that fear helped you. Right? Think about it. You scan over the last year of your life and think about 3 times that fear helped you. Right? And then, think about 5 times. Keep going. Then you start looking at it and you think, is it helping me? Is it helping me? Or is it hurting me? And if it's hurting you, if it's destructive, why are you listening to it? Why are you doing what it says? Right?
Yeah.
Stop doing it. You have to consciously decide to stop doing it. And like anything, things aren't native. Somebody's not necessarily natively great. What actually happens behind the scenes, the thing you don't see with a Michael Phelps, or you think that you don't see with, some great person that you follow, is you don't see the work. You don't see the discipline underneath the surface of what got them there. You don't see that they made the 60 phone calls, or they made the 100 phone calls, or they did that over and over again, or you don't see that they spoke every day. I saw Tony Robbins recently talking about how he was talking about when he first got into the speaking business, how he used to do like 3-4 speaking engagements a day when he was brand new. He did anything to level up his experience and get over the fear and get over all that kind of stuff. You think he has fear today when he gets on stage? Not even close. There's no way. For him, it's not even a thing, and it shouldn't be a thing for you. In sales, you have to master the fear, you have to conquer it entirely, and you have to constantly avoid it and do the opposite of fear on every single deal. So when you look at a specific deal or a specific action you have to take, Write it down if you have to. What does your fear tell you? What is happening right now? Good. Do the opposite of that, or do the action anyway. What you can look at it, write it down, and say, what is the action that you need to do? If you were to just actually talk to somebody about this yesterday, I think my partner, we were talking about this idea of Spock, like in Star Trek, and it's like how he doesn't have the emotional capacity. And so we were just assessing something and kind of using Spock as an analogy, but if there was no emotional capacity involved in it, what would you do? What would Spock do? That sounds like a funny thing, but it's like if there was no emotional capacity, what would you do from an analytical standpoint? And you start looking at that, you go, just do that. You do the analytical side, dump the fear side, or do the opposite side of fear. And you're going to get a long way. I can't believe even top players, how this completely plagues top players. Like, they'll do really, really well because there will be high levels of action, and then sometimes the action ebbs and flows, and then you call them about a certain deal or a certain cycle, and you're like, what's going on with this cycle? And they're like, well, it's with legal. It's like, okay, what's the play?
To wait.
Right. Why are they waiting?
And it's interesting.
Fear is telling them to wait, right?
Yeah.
Fear is telling them to wait. They're afraid to call legal. They're afraid to call the other people. They're afraid to take it all the way.
And it's interesting because that thing about, like, there's certain things that you do in conversations, like there's certain business acumen or the propriety, the way you're supposed to be. You're supposed to act a certain way. You're not supposed to ask the guy at the end of the call, will you sign off on the proposal right now for me? You're not supposed to call legal and interrupt a lawyer from doing lawyer things, which is actually probably nothing. You're not supposed to do certain things, but the really weird, so what it appears to be is that you're going to break the reality, the agreement on how we talk and how we treat each other and how we act and what I say next. But the truth is that because that's fake, because that's made up, communicating a truth from you to them is actually more real. It's more real. There's this made up game of how we play tag or how we do these child games, and we made up the rules, and so we're not supposed to say certain things. Like, I just got off the phone, so here's what I have a guy. This is a client, and did a great video. They're going to do another one very soon. So I talked to the fellow, and he says, good, I'm sending the proposal up to the decision makers. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I know that this is an absolute dead end. I'm done. So I'm like, now I'm not supposed to, and he's specifically not telling me who these people are. He's not telling me on purpose. I can hear it with the way he's describing them and the tone of his voice, and he's trying to get me off the phone. So I ask him, super, I tell you what, who is the person? I'd like to follow up with them. You probably should. Their name is so-and-so and so-and-so. Let me get you their email. I don't want their email. I don't say that to him. I go, thank you. What's his phone number? Oh, his phone number is blah, 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 blah. And we talk about it for a minute. Fantastic. I call that person. Oh, the reason that we're definitely going to do the project. The reason we're not doing it now is because, you see, we're waiting on a refund from this other company that's going to fill the budget back up because we didn't want what they got, and we got this money back guarantee block. Super. Can we just put it on the card and just, you're going to get the refund, and, well, I have it from my boss that I'm not supposed to do that, and da-da-da-da-da. So now I know I have to go up to his boss. But I also go, cool, what's the name of that company? I'm going to get your refund for you. Like, I don't care. I'm just going to say what's true to me.
Because you're on a mission.
It doesn't matter.
The thing is, if you're actually convicted with the mission you're on, you're trying to get something done. I mean, it's just like being a great concierge, right, in sales or anything else. And yeah, the things that he's talking about, yeah, they're awkward. Yeah, you're confronting some things that are kind of awkward, and your fear is freaking out, right? It's like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't say that.
I'm not supposed to.
Don't say that. Don't do that. Don't make that call. It's like, but you have to, You have to, because that's how you get it done. And people are, oh my gosh, no, you're supposed to be polite and do this and that. Like, I'm not saying don't be polite. Keep your
pick up on the social cues. Don't ask me these things. I'm giving you social cues to not say these things.
You know what? Blow through that stuff. Everybody loves somebody who can get things done. And if you're if you're going to get things done, you have to conquer and blow through fear. You have to be the person that can be blunt enough and sort of have your confronting to such a level that it doesn't debilitate you, and therefore nobody wins. Everybody's got fear. It's what you do about it. It's what you do with it, right? The top of the top. often a lot of the top people, they still get fear. It's just what you do with it. It's a discipline. It's a habit. It's how you go about acting, beyond the fear, right? These are the things that count. So focus on that. Focus conquering fear this week. Focus on doing the opposite of what your fear tells you. Write down what your fear is telling you. Write down the analytical play. Write down what you should do and go and do that, right? Yeah. And test that out. You're going to get better results. You're going to get more traction, and after a while, you'll start to notice, you're like, you know what? It just starts going away. It just starts like you start getting comfortable. The uncomfort or the awkward starts to become comfortable. Okay? And then it becomes more of a game and fun. So hope that helps. If you like the channel, subscribe to it right there and hit the like button, thumbs up, and leave a comment if you have any questions, things like that, and share it on social. Okay? Thanks for watching.